Hey, beautiful souls. Good morning. It's Dr. Danny. Had to get myself off the backstage. We have two very exciting and wonderful guests that have been on my channel before, Verone Bright and Jeffrey Kamke. We'll do the introductions when they come on to the front stage here in just a moment. But today's conversation, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's been a lot of chaos in the world around us. I mean, like to the point where it's almost scary in some situations. And all of this is actually a product of a phenomenon called energetic expansion. We have a very interesting alignment in the stars right now, which is why this conversation is super relevant. We have Sun conjunct Jupiter, and they're about to begin their 400-day cycle. So you guys should have a video called Divine Expansion that I recently published, and it takes you through the entire 400-day cycle of Jupiter. But what comes with expansion? There's a dark side, guys. The expansion is chaos because things have to break apart, they have to scatter, and then in that expansive space, you have the ability to create. So these chaotic times, for those of us that are modern magicians, can be very exciting and very, very useful. So I am so excited to bring them on board. Just a couple of quick announcements for you guys. Those of you that are channel members, check the community posts tab in the next day or two. There will be a link to our first ever monthly Zoom call for channel members only. If you want to join the channel, the link is below. I appreciate all of you that have already joined. Like I said in my previous video, I'm so honored that you guys have risen to meet me. And so I want to meet you guys as well in a place where we can form community. So I'm very excited to start doing that. And then tonight we have our third meeting of Stellar Foundations. And this topic is so great. I'm so excited to do this. It's about why astrology works and the ether. And we're going to go over some metaphysics as well as ways for you to defend your position as an astrologer if you are studying astrology. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys this evening. All right. Very good. Let's bring out our guests. I'm so excited. Jeffrey Kamke and Verone Bright. Jeffrey's in Michigan and he's got some crickets out there. So we have some ambient nature sounds. Very nice. Hello, guys. Welcome back. Thank you so much for coming. We'll start with you, Jeff. Introduce yourself. Just tell everybody, remind everybody what you do and any thoughts you have on expansion in general, just to get started.
Absolutely. Well, good morning, everybody. Great to be here with you guys. It's been a little bit since the three of us have gotten together, so always good to be back doing this with like-minded souls, right? So, yeah, my name is Jeff Kamke. I do wealth energetics, and so what that looks like, you might be like, what in the world is wealth energetics? So it's really the inner work that goes along with building wealth, and it's the strategies to build wealth on the financial side. So you might be thinking, okay, it's kind of like doing energy work and like what your financial advisor would be doing. So it's really getting you aligned with what you're doing with your money and doing it from a spiritual place and realizing that you're here for a purpose. And a lot of times we're living outside of that purpose and we have things that get in the way of us living that purpose. And it's to identify those patterns, those subconscious patterns, and being able to work through those to integrate them into the highest version of ourselves. And then when it comes down to actually the money part, it's the strategies that we can be more efficient with our money so that the money goes further. It's meeting the needs that we have, and it's helping us accomplish our goals, whether that's business or personally. So that's a little bit about what I do. And as far as expansion goes, I've been through a lot of expansion so far this year. So I know when we were chiming in together about what was the topic for today, expansion's been very much on my mind and on my heart. Something my wife and I have been doing a lot of marriage work together. Just in business, we've had mother-in-law health issues. So it's just been expansion everywhere. So it's one of those things of just reminding to embody that and breathe through it and allow yourself to expand, because if we weren't meant to expand, then we wouldn't be going through this. So the fact you're going through this, you have to embrace it and realize where do you need to expand. And I think the thing that I've learned in it as well is the expansion is necessary, but sometimes it does get overwhelming. Sometimes it does be like, can we just turn this off for a little bit and just come back again next week or something like that? So it's okay to go through those moments, because I've gone through them, and pick back up when you're more aligned. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts. Great to be back with both of you, and I'm excited for today's conversation.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Verone,
Hi.
remind everybody who you are, what you do, and any initial thoughts you have on expansion.
Okay, y'all can hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm Verone Bright. This question, I'm just gonna put this out there. The question of like, who are you and what you do is becoming like, it's not a challenge, but maybe you both experience this as like, who am I? What do I do? As we expand into our souls and more of that like divine mission, I feel like it's refining and refining. So I think number one, I'll say I'm really here to awaken people to their truest self, to their truest soul. Kind of like what Jeffrey was saying. Many people on this earth are just like going about the notions. They're living out of core wounds. They're doing these patterns and programs that have been running through their bloodlines for generations. And it really takes like that deep, deep, deep inner work to awaken to your truest self, to that inner star that lives inside of all of us. So, number one, that is like my focus, waking people up to their truest self. I am an oracle channel, I'm a 13 sign astrologer. I am an artist, I am an acupuncturist, and I kind of weave a lot of different modalities together to really fit each individual's uniqueness and magic that they're trying to bring through. So, like, the modern magician really feels real to me. I believe that we are the living mythology, and the stories that we are telling ourselves really can shift and change. Like, what life do we want to live? Are we going to be mindless, blind followers? Or are we going to step into our co-creatorness, co-creating with God, with Goddess? We really are here to do this. We've forgotten how freaking powerful we are as souls, and I want to remind people of that in all walks of my life, whether that's my healing or that's my artistry, and really like awaken that DNA that's inside of us that's been dormant, so that we can just become more of who we truly are and live the lives that like we really want to live. As far as expansion goes, yeah, the path, this whole like, oh, it's just love and light. Yeah, it's love and light. And sometimes love and light feels like absolute ass. Like, it really does. Like, light work and shadow work are not separate. Love, unconditional love can sometimes like be a really brutal truth that you have to become aware of. And so, yeah, all of us are going to go through the waves and the storms, but how can we expand our capacity in our nervous system to hold it all, not just look at the stuff you like, but also hold it all. It's gonna turn up. I don't know what else to say. Like, chaos brings creation, and earth is like the frequencies crank and crank and crank and crank. And so, like, who are all of us in the times of these big shifts and changes? I think this is gonna like make and break a lot. So yeah, check. That's my
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming and your insights on that. I mean, it's true. When I think about expansion, there's a little bit of fear there sometimes. Because if let's say something I do goes viral, I still have a whole life over here I got to deal with, and that expansion can be something that isn't necessarily awesome in the moment, when you're trying to handle all the things that come with that type of expansion. And we're all in for it. We are in for it in the stars. There's these alignments that I think you probably know about, Verone, but I mean, just in general, when we talk about the collective, we've got Mars in Leo, we've got Uranus in Taurus, we've got the Black Moon Lilith in Virgo, and then we have Lilith in Aquarius, and they're forming this mystic square on the chart. You know what that is? That
Mm-hmm.
pressure, and that's where everybody's voices and opinions are popping off right now. We're just feeling the urge to be free, to change things. I mean, it doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you're on when it comes to whatever it is you're facing out there in the field. There's strong opinions, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really amazing. And so with this alignment with Jupiter in Gemini, just actually entering the constellation of Gemini, we also have expanded opinions, expanded knowledge, expanded creativity, right? And that energy is in a square to Saturn and Neptune. Like this amazing conjunction that only happens every 34 years. So we are in really some unprecedented times when it comes to the cosmic energies. I definitely can feel it.
Same. I mean, Saturn Neptune is so magical and also so confusing at the same time. I really think with Saturn Neptune, we have this in Pisces, we have this ability to like bring forth visions and beliefs and dreams that are so expansive, but like the way in which we've been building structure is like no longer works, right? So things are like dissolving as we build, they're like dissolving. It's hard to really like grasp on to any one thing, but I don't think it's supposed to be like that. You know, the way in which things have been, the way in which we have done things, obviously are not, it's not really working anymore. But because we get so gripped onto the past and the way that things have been, it can feel very scary for a lot of us to really trust that unknown, like Pisces being that like big kind of abyss or void space. We have to bravely kind of go into the uncertainty and the unknown, because that's how we're going to bring forth something new, something we haven't experienced before, something we're not used to. We can't keep on doing like the rinse and repeat cycle. That's like not working. Nobody wants that, but people, you know, the unknown is scary for a lot of us, especially ones of us who have had a lot of really extreme trauma. We can think like the unknown is like the most terrifying thing. But what if in the unknown it was like all the stuff you've ever wanted? You know, I really think with Jupiter and Gemini, the big expansion of like faith, like what do you have faith in? I don't think this is a time to not have faith. You know, I'm not religious at all, but I am extremely faithful. And if you don't have faith, I think it's going to be challenging. If you don't have your spiritual practices, with Saturn, Neptune is like, be on your spiritual practice, wake up every day, journal, have your practices. You're not going to like, you're going to be like, you know, feeling like you're drowning. And I think that it's each one of us has a responsibility to ourself and our soul in order to like be able to really like know how to navigate through this, even when you feel confused, even when you feel lost, and even when you feel uncertain, even when you feel fearful. You have to remember those tools that you have so that you don't get lost.
Yeah. And one of the, I think the most deeply vulnerable energies that people have right now is their finances, their security, right? Everything is in flux right now. Everyone senses that something is coming. And it could be something we've never seen before that could be totally amazing, but there's so much fear around it. There's so much fear around releasing the old way we did money, or the old way that you thought about money. And when there's an opportunity for chaos and expansion, we freeze up. We get scared. We stand at the edge and we just kind of watch it happen. And I agree with you. I think being not only grounded in your spiritual practice, you know, what rituals are you doing every day for your own mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being? What are you doing every day? And then also, not just that, but grounding your body in the physical, in the here and now. And I think, Jeffrey, you probably can speak to a lot of this, and where the blocks can, if you find them in the body, they can also open you up for expansion in your energetic realm.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, they're one and the same, right? I mean, I always say we lived in such a compartmentalized world. You know, we go to the ear, nose, and throat doctor, and that doctor doesn't recognize any other aspects of the body. And so, yeah, when we have blocks in our body, it's going to show up as symptoms somewhere else in our life. That could be our relationships, could be certainly in our money, could be in our health, of course, mentally, emotionally, physically. And so, you know, you really have to dig into, in my particular work, bioenergetics, it's really identifying where the patterns are stored in the energetics and releasing them and updating the subconscious as we talk about it. Because when there's patterns stored, and those patterns can be, you know, stored from our own life experiences, they can be from our childhood, they can be, as we know, prior to conception, they can be epigenetically passed down, they can be previous generational things that can be maybe struggles with money, right? It could be traumas, it could be a lot of these things that get passed down. But when you, well, in our work, when we say when you update the pattern, you update your life, right? When you change that pattern, you unlock the power, because that pattern is stored subconsciously. It's stored, it can be stored in a lot of different areas of the body, of course, the energetic field, but it's also related to and intertwined with the nervous system. And so the energy field stores the data. The body is more of reading the field, right? And interpreting the information stored in the field. So if we have trauma stored in the field, our brain, our chakras, all the systems of the body, down to the brain sending signals to hormones or to muscles or whatever it is all in response to what's stored. So if we're showing up in our life in a way that isn't in alignment with our authentic self or our highest version or our goals, then we know that there's something in the field that's stored there that our body is responding to that may not be in alignment with where we want to go and what we want to create. And so we have to update that. And when we update that and release that, there's a noticeable, most people feel the change. They feel the release when that actually leaves the body and when the pattern is updated, when the engram, the emotional charge is released, there is a change. And that change, as we know in quantum physics, is instantaneous. Now, the manifestation may take weeks, months, or years to show up fully, right? Because there may be other things we need to do. There might be other action steps we need to take. We need to talk to people. We need to grow certain skill sets. That those things don't just happen instantaneously, even though we've cleared the energy. But they do allow for those things to come in to our experience when prior to we were blocking them. And, I've been working with a few people recently on the financial side specifically that we haven't gotten into the energetics, but it's very apparent because they're stuck in confusion. They don't know what to do. They don't know what steps to take. They're nearing the retirement stage and they're frozen because they just don't know who to believe, right? And so that could be a block. Now we can work through those blocks just through strategy and say, hey, we could do this, this, and this. And sometimes the reframing or the giving someone a new idea can be enough to get them to move past their block, right? It doesn't always have to be energy work. Sometimes it can just be showing them a path to get out of where they're at, that they just can't see the forest through the trees. And so when they can see the forest through the trees, they're like, oh, I didn't see that. I needed that other perspective. And sometimes that allows people to move past blocks as well, just by doing things what I call more in like the physical, right? You're doing more physical things. You're not just working the energetic realm. You're actually, thinking, you're speaking, you're using strategy, you're using your brain to come up with ways to move through things. And that works as well, right? All things work. There's tools for all this stuff. So it's very much a scenario of, when you can change the pattern, when you can change the energetics, then you start to see more flow. And, with these couple people I've been working with recently, it's been amazing to see the transformation just in like how confident they are in their money and how they're showing up in their life. And they don't have the weight of whether it's debt or just the uncertainty as they head into retirement of like, do I have enough money? I don't even know if I have enough money in retirement. Like those are huge questions for people because money it's the currency of how we live, right? If we don't have enough money to do what we need to do, how are we going to, continue to be abundant and do the things that we want to do, even as we head into retirement? So yeah, very much it's the energetics, but then when we update those patterns to be more in alignment with our values, our beliefs, our goals, magic can start to happen because you're tapping back into that flow of abundance that a lot of times those patterns are, in our work, we don't usually say blocks, but I think it's how everybody associates with it. It's a block. It's a block in the field. It's really actually a gap. It's a gap in circuitry that we just don't have because we experience something usually traumatic. It's the traumas. It's the things we've gone through that have actually, think of it as like, we've all had a fuse blown, right? We've all had a breaker in our basement. We plugged in the vacuum cleaner and we also did our hair dryer, right? We popped a circuit.
For me, it's the toaster and the microwave.
Perfect. Exactly. Yeah. And so that blows a circuit. And so that circuit blown doesn't allow energy to flow. Right. And so a lot of times we're just neurologically or energetically filling the gap, allowing that gap to come back together so that energy flows. And when energy flows, we're able to receive information down from divine up through earth, and we can disseminate all that information more efficiently within the body. And then that is bringing more alignment into our body. And then when we're releasing emotions, that's allowing us to probably pick up those pings that we were maybe not seeing before, or we weren't able to process information that we couldn't access before, right? The emotions were blocking the thought process, or the emotions were not allowing for intuitive guidance to flow. All those things come into play. And so, yeah, the more alignment you get, the more, that you're working with mind and body, the more things begin to flow in the direction that you desire in your life, and magic begins to happen.
Yep. Neil Stewart makes a great point. Lack is a huge lie. I don't know if it's perpetuated by the media, but something is perpetuating it. It's almost as if we are born and then we are told we are not worthy from the moment we step into our own field. You are not worthy for the glory and the abundance and the co-creatorship with source. You've got to work hard. You've got to prostrate yourself. You've got to give. And then you find yourself, 50 years later going, oh my gosh, I did that wrong. so, so yeah, it's so interesting too, because I really do believe that we are all supposed to have this gift of abundance, this knowledge of our own connection, our own divinity. Um, so let me think about this. So, oh, there was another interesting thing that you brought up about revealing the underlying current. And there is another aspect in the sky that's very interesting right now. It's really, really quick though. It's Mercury in opposition to Pluto. And whenever these two bodies face off like this, something is brought to the surface. So collectively, there's almost an ease of that. So if you're fighting the welling up of something to be revealed, if you're fighting that, even if it is for your own good, then this energy won't feel so good. But if you let it come out and open, let it be in the truth, let it be in the light, then it's going to be a catalyst for that type of change. And I know, Verone, the work you do with people is really transformative and amazing. I know you go deep with them. You like get down to the core. You like a drill sergeant, tell them how amazing they are.
I don't know if I'm
Um,
like a drill sergeant. I'm definitely, there is a bluntness to me.
yes.
My Ceres and Mars are conjunct. So like, I feel like when someone's in front of me, it's like how I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste time. It's because I'm an Oracle channel and I have been since my whole life, honestly. It's easy for me to like go into people's unconscious. I can see their past memories. Like, I know there's a science behind it. Maybe I can't articulate it in this moment, but it's easy for me to go in and like see the unseen. A lot of times, like people just need to hear the thing that they already know, kind of like what Jeffrey was saying. And with that, like, neural connection, a lot of times our neurons, they're like reaching, and they may be reaching for like, years and decades. And it just takes that one thing to like make the circuit, make the connection. I mean, we're doing this with each other. We're not separate from one another. And we all are having these experiences to return us back to the all. We're like individuated, but we're all connected. The paradox is to me like the transcended part of the duality. Once we can realize that like it's not this or that, it's all. I mean, that's Chinese medicine. It's the yin yang, the Tai Chi symbol, that the yin is part of yang, the yang is part of yin. They're always changing into one another. We have life and we have death, and they're not separated. We have day, we have night, and they're not separated. But, that lack pattern, when our souls decide to like come in here and incarnate into the bloodlines that we incarnate into, we come in to clear out these patterns. We are literally the alchemists. We are the magicians. We are the ones that we are the medicine. We come in to clear out these lack patterns. And so like, the more that you have, the more powerful your soul, honestly. Like, trust me, I was born with like a mission that felt, pretty intense. I was born into a family of people of a bloodlines that I've had a lot to clear. And I don't really know if there's like an end point. Once you're helping yourself, you're also then helping the collective. It's like there's a lot of things to do. And so, it's like, I don't like seeing people that are like, I've healed everything. It's like, okay, freaking doubtful. It's like, and if you've done it all, now teach other people. Like the medicine that you learn, you're here to teach other people. So like that pattern of lack of like, I am not enough or I'm not good enough, I think is pretty rampant. I would say that the base of that is like shame. Shame says, I'm not good enough. I'm too much. I'm bad. I'm broken. I'm gross. I'm ugly. Like all of these things. And I think a lot of people feel that. And that's here to be radically shifted on such a big level. We don't, even that comment of like the mainstream media perpetuates it. Okay, yeah, sure, maybe that's true. I'm not going to say that's not true, but don't give the mainstream media your freaking power. Like, don't give your power is not outside of you. It never was and it never will be. Like, you can wait for a savior all day long. You'll be waiting forever. Okay. So like we have to wake that up. And usually the ways that these core wounds inside of us are awoken, are being triggered. People want to run from their triggers. People want to pathologize emotions. These are tools and guides in order to get us into our deeper layers. You have to awaken that unconscious so that you can see like how you're operating. The patterns and programs and the behaviors, they can shift once you shift that internal story or that internal world. So if you're operating, you can do the affirmations all day being like, I want abundance, I want money, I want this and that. But if internally, unconsciously, you don't believe you're enough, or you want to stay hidden, or you think that you're not good, it really won't matter how much you say these affirmations. You have to get down into these patterns, and we're healing not just ourselves, we're healing our bloodlines. This is generational. We have that knowledge and that technology in our bodies, in our bloods, in our bones, in our DNA. I mean, I'll say it even goes back to the stars, as the stars are the mythos. We're, again, living mythology. We're running some ancient stories. So you have to become aware. It's not about what you do. It's like, why do you do it? Why do you want what you want? Why are you doing what you're doing? You got to really like have that deep connection with yourself in order to get to the root. You got to get to the root of it, or it's just the patterns just will continue. That's what patterns do. They just go over and over and over. If you're like, why do we keep doing the same thing over and over? Yeah. Well, get to the root of why you're doing it. And those emotions will really take you into it. So, I would say for everyone who's watching, like, if you are having intense feelings, like, feel them. Don't run from them, because like shadow work and inner healing work is no longer a luxury. Like, it's not a luxury for people to be like, oh, I'm healing. We're going to get forced into it, because we're here to know ourselves, and we're here to be free of all the things that have kept us from our truest self. So yeah, again, I'll say it again. Earth is going to continue to like crank the dial. The frequency is going to rise. Things are going to purge. I mean, Pluto's going to continue to go through Capricorn for a really long time. We're restructuring on a very, very deep, like, DNA level. And I would say this is like our greatest challenge and our greatest gift. It's the paradox. We have to experience it all.
100%, 100%. Well, so when expansion comes, or when we're faced with expansion and we realize we've got these subconscious patterns, Uranus being in Taurus, this is energy that I feel like it's nervous system Earth. Like, we need to kind of really figure out how to regulate the dysregulation. There's going to be, I feel like, in the coming days and weeks, there's going to be a bit of dysregulation we're all going to be feeling, and we're going to have to find techniques and strategies to regulate ourselves. Like, I just felt that amazing trigger. Haven't felt that in 20 years. What is that? Where does that come from? How do I ground myself? What do I do to be right here? What are your thoughts on some of those, Jeffrey, Verone?
Yeah, I think for me, it's having an arsenal of your go-tos. There's a plethora of tools out there. For me, I use a lot of thought field therapy, which is tapping. I do a lot of Dr. Sue's mortar energy codes work, which is like central channel breathing with anchor points and bringing in some of the bioenergetic stuff that we use. But it can be done very simply. It's a lot of times the simple things can be the most profound things. I'm reminded a few weeks ago, both my kids, my son's almost 10, my daughter's 6, and I don't remember what the dynamic was. We were all a little, cranky that day, and we went outside and we're just, touching a tree, hugging a tree, and grounding. And sometimes those things, the simple things, the basics, can be so transformative. We don't always need this big secret. We don't need this, like, quantum physics super duper answer. Sometimes it's just a matter of like, are you hydrated enough? Yeah. Have you grounded in a while? Go give someone a hug. Talk about what you're feeling to, like, your spouse or a good friend. Like, call someone up. I mean, there's times where, I'm off, and it's like, I just need to talk to somebody. Like a thing like this sometimes can be a shift. Just being around a different energy, right? Just changing the radio station from crap energy to good energy, and however that looks. So I mean, yeah, there can be, tapping sequences you can do. We can do bioenergetic stuff and find what chakras are out of balance and how the subconscious is bringing patterns. It can get complex, and it can be powerful. It can be transformative. But don't forget the basics. I think that's what I'm always reminded of. The basic things. Go get some sunlight. Go for a walk. Move your body. Do 10 squats. Do 10 jumping jacks. Get on a rebounder. All those little things can make a difference in feeling good now. And I think that's the key, is the awareness of making sure that you are aware you're feeling off, and get better and better the longer you live, of recognizing when you're off, being able to feel that, working on your emotional guidance system. So that I know when I first got into this work 10, 15 years ago, I look back, I'm like, I've been feeling crappy for like 3 months straight. I didn't even realize it. I was just like in crap energy for months on end, didn't even know it. And then you can slowly start bringing that around to where it's like, oh, now I've been crappy for 10 minutes. Now I realize it. Let's take some steps to change that. And it can be those basics, go to the basics. If the basics aren't working, then certainly go to more some of the advanced techniques. Or if you already know some of the advanced stuff and you know what works, you use it. If you don't know what works, I would encourage you to try different modalities, try different techniques, because I know some people, like sometimes my wife and I, the things that work good for her aren't the things that are my go-tos, and vice versa. The things that I love, that I know just like get me straightened around like super efficiently, aren't the things she goes to. And I think it's a process with a lot of things, right? It's diet, figuring out what foods your body works well with. There's no book that's going to give you your exact answer. It's part of the expansion, right? That's what we're talking about. It's part of the expansion of learning yourself at a deeper level, learning how you tick, learning how to get yourself back on track when you get off track, and learning to go deeper in why did I get off track? Because maybe you've been off track, on track, doing that same exact process for 5 years, but it's the same exact pattern. You're not actually getting any deeper. Maybe you need to find a deeper pattern or deeper tool to get you out of those patterns than just going and grounding and making sure you're hydrated. Maybe there's something deeper here, and it's that shadow work, right? It's the deeper stuff. And it's a lot of times the things that we're afraid to go do, that's where our ultimate breakthroughs occur. I think, Verone, you had alluded to that in another way so far in what we've been talking about. And I think it's so true. The things that we resist persist, as we know. But when we go to those places, that usually opens up the doors for, more greater abundance and a deeper knowing of ourselves, and allowing more abundance to flow through ourselves. And it's that fear, right? Danny, you spoke to that. It's that fear of going into those places, and it's the unknown. It's having that courage, though, finding that courage of going to those places and learning that I'm going to be okay. It's okay to go there. It's okay to face these emotions. And when you do, when you start doing that cycle of realizing you're off track, finding some deeper emotions, it starts to build your confidence that I can handle more. I can handle bigger stuff. I can handle these deeper emotions, and it's okay. I'm okay. Right. I mean, it sounds kind of basic, right? Like I have to feel that way, but yeah, it's kind of where we're at. Sometimes we just need to be okay. We need to know we're okay. So I don't remember what your initial question was, Danny, but that's
It was like, how do you like ground? And you made some really interesting points. Really kind of finding, how does your body respond to your environment, right? And what are the emotional triggers that you feel in your body? And just as a physician, as a person who takes care of women, and also someone who is going through the transition of menopause, if you don't get the emotional stuff sort of handled before you get into this phase, it is very, very difficult, because it is a tremendous physical stress on the body. It's difficult to sleep, number one, because you're sweating all the time, or your emotions are popping up and they're running through your mind, and you can't sleep. So you have to be very aware of how your body responds to things. And I have been sort of on this trial and error of how to stop the night sweats. I've done everything from changing my diet to trying certain medications before I go to bed. And what I found works is listening to singing bowls. That's it. I don't know why, but as soon as I turn the singing bowls on, I will drift off to sleep, and I don't even sweat. It's amazing. It's amazing. So anyway, that works for me. I don't know if it'll work for all menopausal women. But what about you, Varun? What sort of advanced techniques do you do to like ground your body, or you tell your clients to ground themselves into the world?
Okay. Well, first of all, everything that Jeffrey is saying today, I'm just like, yes, yes.
He's
I
on
feel like
fire.
you're
I
almost
can't even
reading, you're like reading my mind, or like we're sharing the same like cosmic waves. I definitely, EFT tapping is important. I think the first thing is like, when you go through a trigger and your nervous system is activated, and you go through like fight, flight, freeze, fawn, You need to be, you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware of when it happens. Sometimes you'll figure it out instantly. And like Jeffrey says, sometimes it might take months, but like you have to know the times where you get off. And regulating your nervous system doesn't just happen in like this peaceful place with your blankie and your bottle and your bathtub. That can be a tool, but like that, you have to be able to have a regulated nervous system that is going to expand and hold a bigger capacity when like shit hits the fan, when we've got like geopolitical madness, when you're like whatever, when things change, who are you then? Because that is how we regulate our nervous system, not just by staying in your house and like being under a blanket, and like that's just not the way. So these triggers actually are gifts to allow you to get into these deeper places so that you do have the tools. Now, what will happen when we have anxiety is we forget. Anxiety at its root is forgetting. So you can be going through something and you'll be like, oh, I'm having all this anxiety. All the tools, all the things you've mastered, all the things you know are like out the window. Your brain has becomes this like empty vortex of just being like, now I'm in this trigger. So my recommendation is like put notes up. I have a dry erase board on my refrigerator, and I put things on there that I need to remember that you maybe think that are in your memory forever, but the minute you have the trigger, the minute you go into anxiety, like you forget like, oh, I know how to do breath work, I know how to hug a tree, but it's like gone because all that's happening now is the trigger or the nervous system like deregulation. So put notes up on mirrors, on boards. The background of your phone, I think, is a really important thing to have something on so that when you're experiencing something, you've got reminders all around you to be like, go outside. Because what happens when we go through freeze mode? Well, like the nervous system freeze. I mean, I go through all of these things. You freeze, you're constricted, you don't want to move. Like, and what you need to do is move your body. It's amazing what a walk can do. Go on a walk, look at a bird, listen to bird song, touch a tree, breathe the air, look at the sky. Remember that, like, even though there's chaos, maybe the chaos isn't actually happening around you. Like, but you may forget because when you're in the trigger, you may be like scrolling on your phone and like, grinding out the brain and analyzing. And what you need to do is go outside and go on a little walk. So a little note that says, go on a walk, look at a bird, hug a tree can really do a lot. EFT tapping, I think, is really awesome. Number one, other than just like the acupuncture points and the meridians, you're making contact with your body. You're like saying things and you're making contact with your body, making that full circuit again with mind-body connection. That's the most important. For me, I really love sitting by running water. That does something really powerful to me. I am very blessed that I have a creek by my house that extends into a larger creek that also extends into a larger river. So I, for one, have to live by running water. It is essential for me. And so when I sit by running water, I'm reminded of my blood that runs through my body and that everything is always moving. That everything's always moving, nothing ever stays the same, and I'm part of that. So like being reminded of nature. I like doing breath work. Breath of fire is really powerful. If you don't know breath of fire, look it up. It's very easy to do. It oxygenates your blood very quickly, and it clears out a lot of that stagnant energy. I think it's also really important when you have these triggers is to like trace the emotion back to the first time that you felt it. Take a moment and pause instead of trying to go in fix it mode. I think this is what we do. Something's wrong. I want to fix it. Oh, I'm bad for having this emotion. No, you're not. We're not bad. Stop pathologizing emotions. Feel the emotion. Be like, okay, I'm feeling a lot of fear right now. I'm going to breathe into it. When's the first time that I felt this fear? Because I can guarantee you it's not new. All the emotions that we're feeling, they're not new, they're old. Most of these emotions are old. So we want to get to the root of them and we want to be able to transform them and release them out of us. The more that we release that is not us, the more room we have for us. And we are ever expanding, dynamic, powerful souls. And different parts of your life, you've got different parts of your soul coming in. The more that you can track this, the more that you can get to the root of it, the more then you can change your behaviors. That's what pattern recognition is. You're changing the behavior. Maybe every time you got stressed out, you got on your phone and disassociated. Trust me, I've been the queen of disassociation. I learned that pattern really young. I had to disassociate. It's the only way I would be dead right now if I didn't disassociate in my youth. I know that for a fact. And so now that pattern and that coping mechanism of disassociating does not serve me at all. So like those coping mechanisms, they're good to a point until the tool becomes the block. So you have to know when the medicine is expired. You know, like you may take a medicine for a while and then the medicine is no longer a medicine, the medicine becomes a poison. So you have to know when to shift. And now it's like I got to be as present as possible, I got to be aware as possible, I got to be as sober as possible, I got to be in my body as much as possible, because that's what has shifted in my life. So like really seeing like the coping mechanisms I think are important. That's been coming up a lot for me and for my clients, is like, what are you using to cope, and is the coping just letting you hold on to it longer? Like, do you want to cope with holding like the boulder forever, or do you want to actually see how to put it down? So like pay attention to your coping mechanisms, because maybe you don't have to cope with it anymore. Maybe you can like fully release it. Yeah, writing the notes, I think that would be like the biggest takeaway. Like, don't forget your tools and keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. And if you really, really, really need support, there are people out there like us who can help you.
100%.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just as simple as noticing a transit in your chart and then realizing that perhaps this is temporary. And here, yeah, you know, this is what you can do with these two energies that are favorable for you. So yeah. Beautiful, beautiful advice. I want to see if there's some comments in here. Somebody asked a question here. Let's see. Or had a thought. Yes. Celtic Thistle Physics or Psychics. I always want to say physics when I see her comments. Do we think that sin, guilt code can be the mirror, wisdom, ignorance we are thinking when we are separate from the inner divine, when we aren't, guilt from the first thought mirror for making the archons? I think what she's saying is like, what I think you just said it in your last couple of statements was that we have an emotion, we're triggered, like, God, there it is again, dang it. And then you start talking yourself down about having it. So that's like the guilt code, the sin code. God, I did it again. I got triggered again. Rats. Maybe that's there.
I kind of think with guilt, you know, I think guilt at its core is like something told you at a young age that it was not okay for you to be yourself. And because that, maybe you even are guilty just being yourself, you know, having emotions, being like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way, or I shouldn't be this way, or I shouldn't say this, like, or even guilt. I see guilt coming into like people pleasing. That's been a huge thing coming up with my clients, of like, people pleasing. I'm going to say, if y'all are people pleasers out there, you got to look at that pattern, because the more you people please, the less your life is yours. The more your life is this false version of what other people think your life should be. And each one of us, it's our responsibility to our souls, to ourselves, to choose the life that is ours. Only you are going to be able to know who you are. Only you are going to have your truth. Nobody, you can have your mom, your dad, your preacher, your president, whatever. They can say it doesn't, all that shit does not matter. You know, you have to go into yourself and really rescue yourself and tell the world who you are. Only you can tell the world who you are. So I think a lot of people have guilt to the external of like disappointing or letting people down. Let them be disappointed. Let people down. Let them be disappointed, because like, if not, your whole life is going to be run by other people's ideas of what they think life should be. And so you're kind of going to be in this like guilt, like grief prison. You know, you'll look around and be like, why am I not happy?
Right.
Well,
and all these assumptions that you're making,
yeah.
about what other people think are actually quite incorrect, because they're worried about what other people are thinking about them. It's so silly what we fool ourselves into believing. It's really important.
Yes. So like, I don't know, the word sin, I don't feel like I really connect to the word sin. To me, God is not a punishing God. God loves me unconditionally all the time and wants me to win and all of us to win. So like, we're going to mess up. That's human. Like, perfectionism is like not a real thing. You know, you're gonna trip and fall and skin your knee. You're gonna like fail, like whatever. It's not about trying to be perfect. If you try to be perfect, you'll never be. You'll just like be frozen. So yeah, I think guilt is like more of like an issue of the heart, of like fear of like being your truest self.
What about you, Jeffrey? You've been quiet over there. The guilt of abundance,
Yeah,
guilt
for
of
sure.
wealth.
Yeah, I think, one of my mentors, Dr. Mortar, he always talked about there's perfection in everything. We think he was, dealt a lot with not so much the spiritual development of stuff, but the physical problems. He would always talk about people that came with like cancer and they always felt like there was something wrong. He's like, no, cancer is perfect. It's the perfect expression of interference in the body somewhere. Could be nutritional interference, could be chemical interference, could be emotional interference, spiritual interference, but it's the perfect response. Our body's always doing the right thing. So if we're stuck in a sin cycle or a guilt, shame, whatever cycle, I always have seen those as like, those are the seeds to greatness. Those are the golden nuggets, because those, once we realize that those are what's there, we can look into them, grow from them, learn from them. There's lessons in that. That's what Dr. Mortar always spoke to, is there is lessons in everything. One of my favorite athletes, Tom Brady, he grew up or went to Michigan here, about 40 minutes from me. And he always talked about, I don't think it's his original quote, but he always talked about, like, you either win or you learn. There's no losing. And so if you're stuck in a cycle, it's the opportunities are there for you to, be open to what is in store for me to rise above this, to learn, to grow, to expand. And a lot of times it's the emotions of the guilts and the shames and all those lovely emotions that we deal with that keep us from seeing it. That emotion almost blocks our ability to see the truth of what it is there for us, where it's a gift. It can be a gift. And I'm reminded of years back, early on when I got into bioenergetic work, I was working on a client. It was a referral of a friend, and she had been, massively abused. And I can remember going through some work with her, and I had a little dialogue. Sometimes there's not a whole lot of dialogue in our work. It's literally just clearing energy and updating the subconscious. But I remember asking her a couple questions about, have you ever looked at what you went through from a positive, perspective? And I thought she was going to come off and hit me. I thought she was just like, are you out of your mind, crazy? Of course there's nothing good. And I said, I'm going to just let you sit here for that question for a few minutes, and I'm going to, come back in a couple minutes. When I came back, she had this whole story. She teared up about, I never have thought about it that way. I always saw that situation from, it was horrendous. It was horrific. It was traumatic. It was ugly. It was the worst of what someone could do to another human being. But she's like, actually, now that you've asked me that question, I've opened up and I can see now this cascade of positive things that have happened now for the last 20 years in my life and other people's life because of that event. And it's like, yes, there are golden nuggets in everything, but we sometimes get our blinders on where we only stay focused on the negative things, on the emotional charge that's surrounding an experience or a pattern in our life. And we can't see the greatness and the goodness that can come from what we go through. It's that expansion process. And I believe that cycle of in itself is the perfection that God created, or that Spirit created all of this in, is we get to go through that. Now, we may not see it. We may never awaken to those things or to all of those things, but I don't think we're here to, like you said, Verone, be perfect. We're not here to clear every single block and figure every little thing out. We're here to do as much as we're here to do, to grow and expand our consciousness for what we signed up to come here for. And it doesn't end here, right? There's a lot more that goes on after we leave this plane and continue that expansion in other ways. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that, because those are just some of the core things that I've grown up from my mentors. And it's always so helpful to have that perspective shift and be reminded. Verone, you're talking about putting notes up. It's a scriptural thing. Be in remembrance of, various things. And those are just the simple things that bring you back to, oh yeah, I do need to be reminded that bad things can be gold nuggets. They can be seeds of greatness in my life if I look at them for that. And if I have that perspective or that intention of looking at it, if I'm convinced and have the belief that they're always bad, I will continue to find evidence to support that belief that they are always bad. If I reframe it and say, there's opportunity, there's seeds of greatness within this. This is part of my expansion. If you can, maybe you don't believe that 100%. Maybe you believe it 10% in the beginning. Maybe you believe it 50%. But just being open to that possibility of an idea can start moving the needle for you. And then at some point, you're like, maybe they're right. Maybe the three of them talking that one Monday morning, they weren't crazy. Maybe there was seeds of greatness in this. And now I can look back, right? Hindsight's always 20/20. We can look back and see, yes, there was amazing things that came from that. And if it weren't for being open to seeing it, I would have never seen it and would have never been able to grow in the way that I am. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
You're actually doing a spiritual technology of rewriting the past when you do that. Where like you maybe rerun the conversation or the incident in your mind, and you have a certain viewpoint on it because you were in a certain space and time. You can go back there and in your mind and in your imagination change how it went and change how people reacted to you. And you can move forward with that story. And that's the truth.
Absolutely.
It's really incredible how it works. And it's not just energy, it is technology. I'm actually endeavoring to try to find out how and why it works, at that intricate level, with some of the research that I do on my channel, just with metaphysics and the ether and all of that. And I think that our thoughts and our intentions absolutely shape our experience. Where there's a bubble of energy in just a few moments in the future ahead of us where we can either borrow from or give to good intentions, so that when we move forward, we can affect our field in a way that's helpful and awesome. And your crickets are getting quite a lot of uh, applause in our chat here. So, don't we have such a wonderful community? They're all so loving. There's nobody making nasty comments. They're
Well,
they're
that's
all very
good.
supportive of what you guys are teaching. Yeah. So this has been such a great conversation. I think maybe we'll wrap it up, but I wanted to think about just a couple of things before we did
Do you
close
mind if I
this.
piggyback just a little tiny bit on what Jeffrey said?
Yeah.
Because I
Oh
just
yeah,
have
go
to.
for it.
So, like
Yeah.
the subconscious mind runs like 95% of the show, right? And the subconscious mind, its job is it's like the ego, to keep us safe, to protect us, and to keep us in what's familiar. And what's familiar may be not what we want. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean that it's something we want to continue to do. And like, as somebody who came from, I think this is why like I love helping people, and it's easy for me to help people of all different like types of walks of life, because like I've gone through so much intensity, is like you can become very identified with the pain. That's something I had to work through, because like I think on a big level, like your soul wants justice, right? Like if you had, for me, like I had extremely abusive like adults in my life. My parents were extremely abusive. So there's this part of you that screams for justice. So you can be very identified with the pain, with the suffering, with the story of like, I went through this and I'm going to just be this like pain body. Well, that can be a hard shift. This is why like doing this inner work breaks down your identity. It breaks down your personality. It breaks down these things that you were like very familiar with. And I am like a believer in kind of this sacred breakdown. We are like, people are trying to like not break down and hold it all together. Well, maybe you don't need to hold it together, because what you're holding together is the same thing that you need to release. So, I would say like whatever you're highly identified with, question it. Question these identities, because these identities may be keeping you trapped in this energy that's like actually hurting you. And when you start going into the unfamiliar, it's going to be a bit fearful, because that protector part of you that has done a great job is going to get on high alert. And so like you've got to like face that protector part and be like, okay, thank you, you've done a good job, but like I don't need to be protected from this anymore. I can start removing off this armor. I can start removing this in order to feel it. Let yourself feel all the emotions, but also know that like the anger, the rage, the fear, the fright, the shame, that is not all there is. And you have to keep going. It's like crossing a bridge, right? You can't stop halfway. You got to go all the way through. And when you go all the way through it, there's something on the other side. And you're always going to go like through peaks and valleys. You're going to climb the mountain and then you're going to go back down. You're going to climb another mountain. You're going to go back down. There's no stopping at the top and being like, da-da, this is where I'm at, So like we're going to have waves, and that's just part of life. I think that's what aliveness is. I feel like
Yeah.
being alive is kind of like being a bit, it's being grounded and unhinged at the same time. I feel very comfortable with like my genius and my
Yeah.
madness, with my groundedness and with my electricity, with like my sleep and with my artistry. I think being able to hold the wholeness of it all is what it's like to be a human that's alive, like we want to be alive. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's about being able to have that harmony. If you're in disharmony and you're just waking up to that and you're finding out, yeah, you're in for a dramatic shift. It's okay. It's totally okay. What happens over time as you develop awareness, as you have your bag of tools, then these little shifts in energy actually become fun. They or they become less impactful. I often talk to these guys about how, okay, here's the energy that's coming. Here's how you can work with it. If you want to live a soul guided life, you can actually step through the chaos and dodge the bad. Like you get to observe things as an observer to learn from and to empathize with, but you don't have to get involved with it. You don't have to embody that energy if it doesn't suit you. You can just watch it and move through yourself, through your own life and your own field gracefully. So, well, this has been just an amazing conversation. I always really enjoy talking to the
Same.
both of you. Um, I think that this was perfect timing. I feel like Verone, you sort of get me. You can feel the energy, even if you don't watch the stars as much as I do. You're still in it. Like there's a push of benefic energy coming towards us that can be somewhat chaotic. And so just having us three get together to sort of give you guys our stories, our advice, our healing intentions to get you through this wave, you might come through it on the other side a little bit more of an expert, a little bit better at you being you, maybe with a little bit more insight into, what your future may hold. So I really hope this has served you. If you guys have any closing comments or any thoughts that you have for these guys and people that are going to watch in the future, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of my closing thoughts was, one of your earlier questions to me, Dr. Danny, was, what are the advanced techniques? And I think a lot of it comes down to what we've been speaking to is also feeling it in the body, right? Of where these patterns are at. And some of the basics of the bioenergetics work is being aware of yourself that you got off track, like we've already talked about, and then finding, Verone spoke to it, where did this pattern come? What's my earliest memory? When did this start? When was this frequency, implanted, or when was it created? When was that imprint there? And then going back to that point, and it may be, some of you that can go further back, it may not be in your lifetime, it could be there other lifetimes ago. Finding that and then tuning into the body, bringing it back to the body, as our one of our mentors, Dr. Sue, always talks about. And then where do you feel it? It's usually along the chakras. It's one of the chakras that usually you feel some sensation with. And then it can be a matter of squeezing that area, like the muscles at your throat, squeezing your muscles to your throat, placing a hand there, doing something, and then doing some breathing and doing some releasing with that. That can be a very powerful way to complete that circuitry and begin to open you up to releasing, number one, what's stored there, but then embodying your greatness, because it's a kind of a two sides of the same coin, right? We want to release what's holding us back. We want to get rid of the interference. We also want to embody, because we can't just focus our whole life on all the wrongs, all the sin, all the bad things. We have to do practices that are actually embodying what we're here to create, not just always, releasing the quote unquote blocks that keep us from getting there. We actually have to turn the corner and say, yes, there's negative aspects of me, but if I'm just embodying my greatness and putting more focus there, I'm going to create way more than I'm going to if I'm focused on, getting rid of all the negative stuff. And it's the same thing in money. I talk not a lot about money when we're together, but, with money principles, it's a matter of I can focus a lot of my attention on reducing my debt, or I could put the same amount of hours into expanding my money. And I can put 10 hours extra in a week. I can only reduce my debt so much, or reduce my expenses so much, but I could put that same 10 hours into growing my business. And that's basically no ceiling to that, right? And so the same thing applies here, is where are you putting your focus and attention? Is on the things that, yes, they may matter in the beginning to get you going. You have to clear some of those negative things to get you going, get rid of enough negative frequencies to get you to a more neutral place or slightly positive place. And then from there, as you spoke to, Verone, is beautiful, shifting that focus and making it more about alignment and embodiment, and what are you wanting to create in your life, and who are you wanting to serve? What is your purpose? Who are you here to serve, and why are you here? Those bigger questions, but they're the deeper spiritual questions that sometimes we can't access when we have the negative emotions and the traumas, keeping that kind of blinded. once we get through that, then we can see that, and then it's time to tap into the greatness, and that's where the embodiment work comes in, and going through that. Not that you'll ever, of course, never have to stop looking at what's holding me back. Those are going to come up probably in new levels as well. But the idea is the shift of focus, and I just see so many people get stuck on, I'm just going to continue to work on fixing all my blocks, or they never turn the corner. And so I encourage you, if you've been stuck in that, I've been there, turn the corner and embody your greatness. So that's my leaving message. Great to be with you guys today.
Thank you so much.
Verone, I'm going to give a
thoughts?
homework assignment, because I feel like talk
Okay.
is great, but here's some things that you can do. I would say get a sheet of paper or a notebook you really love, get a pen that you really like writing with, and write down 5 things that you've always wanted to do that like just bring you so much joy and light you up, whether they're small or big. We've all got these dreams. We've all got things. I know that I've got like huge dreams and things I want to create. Write them down. 5 things, right? The number of creation. Write down 5 things. Focus on that. When shit is like going all insane, like focus on that. Like, maybe it's like, I want to write a book. Maybe it's like, I want to travel to this country. Like whatever it is, write them down and focus on that. Because again, we're here to be alive. Like if you just identify and only focus on the bad, the wrong, the block, the I got to fix this, then you're always fixing. Maybe you don't need to fix things all the time. Like really write down those things and focus on that. Because, I do believe we're here to leave a legacy. I truly feel that in my soul. Like I'm here to leave a legacy. I'm here to leave like medicine and magic for the ones that come after us. I do believe that. Beyond ego, just like things that are supposed to like be here. I want to look back like, on my last day of life and be like, I did the damn thing. Like I created the thing, I pushed through my fear and I did the things, and I feel like as satisfied as I can, like and I think that the more we can focus on what we like really want and what we want to create and what we want to do, the more intentions you're going to put into it. Kind of like what Jeffrey said. So write down the 5 things. We all have at least 5 things that we want to do that we haven't done yet. And focus on that and let that be your mission every day. I'm going to do this, because otherwise you'll be distracted. The distractions are out there. You got to train your brain like you train a dog. You got to keep bringing it back. So, I love writing. The Geminis here, my North Node is about to get activated. I've got North Node Gemini. So I love writing. I love using pen and paper. I think that it's a way to interact with ourselves externally instead of just like having the mind spin out. Like write it down. Remind yourself of like your magic. It's all there for you. You don't have to go search for it.
I'm excited to read your book.
Trust me, I've got a couple in the workings right now of different types. I've got like 3 that I'm working on right now. It's hard for me to work on one project at a time.
I get it. Awesome. Well, we need to do this, I think, at least once a quarter.
Totally.
At least, at the inflection points, like the solstices and the equinoxes, because we're right there, and it kind of seems to align that way anyways. But I've really enjoyed conversing with you all again, and connecting with you, and just recentering. You guys help me sort of like, okay, this is why I'm doing this, because get me excited about it.
Same.
Yeah. All right. Well, I am going to leave these guys with the top 10 reasons why they should study astrology. I'm also going to encourage them to click on your links and check out your work. You can follow both of them on Facebook. And then, of course, if you're not in the Fellowship of 13 Signs, join us over there. And y'all have a wonderful moon day.
Bye.
See you guys later.